I just had a really nice conversation with someone, a woman, about the relationship, the dance of polarity between masculine and feminine, between male and female. And she expressed a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. So she expressed how she's had multiple experiences of feeling unsafe around men, feeling uncomfortable and not really trusting them as or feeling comfortable and just not enjoying scenarios where that's been true. And that's just everyday things as well as intimate exchanges. For example, getting on an elevator and being the only person in there with a man and not feeling safe because of really the energetic that person was exhibiting towards her. And in partnership or in relationship, this sense of not being able to communicate her experience, and this sense of duty and obligation and fawning, and that not being read and received by the masculine that experience was being shared with, that they were very much in their own experience and not really energetically attuned to know that was going on. It's interesting that this idea of being able to communicate and express boundaries to the masculine is a challenge, not just for this individual, but for many women. And perhaps there's a sense of not feeling safe to be able to communicate boundaries or have them received in a way that is inviting for them to be raised. And yeah, this person spoke about how there's societal expectation of her as a woman to fulfill her duty as a woman and regards to sexual exchange. And she expressed about how not wanting to feel like her body is being used for sexual gratification to achieve something. And I mean, it raises a topic of conversation for me of how many other women feel that. How many of you have experienced this sense of obligation and duty to satisfy a man or be present for his sexual gratification? And the conversation went to actually a really interesting place of me inviting her to consider the other end of the spectrum of that, of the man having a sense of duty and obligation to be met in partnership as a man. What we're required or expected to bring to the partnership, that sense of safety and trust and providership and leadership. And how there's perhaps these unspoken or unwritten obligations of the sexes, different, but still very present. And the word and the sentence or takeaway idea was this one of reorganization, that perhaps we're coming to a point in relationship or in society or in intimacy where there is a requirement, a need, a desire, a compelling to have a reorganization around these ideas or inherent ideas of expectation and duty and obligation. Because in a sense, it doesn't allow freedom. This person expressing that there's this desire for life to be easy, or this sense of freedom and liberation Liberation is the word that I use, but freedom is at the heart of, liberation is at the heart of freedom. And I was speaking to the idea of Tantra around this actually. That spiritual liberation is the primary goal of tantric practice, and that it's attainable and achievable in this lifetime. And that meaning, this idea of not being enslaved to essentially to the mind. We become so over-identified with the mind. It's part of the challenge of being human, is that we have this brilliant mind that can do so much and contemplate such a complex way things of the past and things of the future, that we get so consumed by it and lost in it. And our sense of self, our individual awareness, which is, tantrically speaking, who at the heart we are, we lose touch with. And the whole idea of the spiritual practice is this melting away of individuated awareness from the construct of the mind, to no longer be subservient to it, but to allow it to be a tool for us to use when we choose to, rather than be compelled by. And with that liberation comes the ability to accept and enjoy reality and all of the goodness that is the human experience, free from all of mind-based suffering. And maybe that's what's being invited us at the moment. And this is why I'm having these conversations, and why I'm wanting to have these conversations with women, as working as an intimacy mentor, intimacy coach, if you will, with couples, but also predominantly with women, looking to rewrite these subconscious programs, these duties, these obligations that are built in, or maybe installed societally as we grow and develop. And this is really what my understanding of the tantric path and practice is about, is a reclamation of sovereignty, the ability to choose. Kind of speaks into that Viktor Frankl quote of, the last of the human freedoms is the ability to choose how we react in any given situation. For me, that's a very tantric idea. It's this ability to choose. It's whether one of my teachers says there's only ever two choices at any moment in time. It's whether to abide by our programming, or to return to presence. And maybe, yes, as part of these conversations, that's what we're striving towards in a individual sovereign space, but also in regards to partnership and relationship and interaction with another, and predominantly the area I'm working in relationship, to be able to have that integrated sense of masculinity and femininity within oneself, to then be able to navigate the world of the complexities of partnership and relationship and relating, so that there isn't a loss of that sovereignty. And I think that's really what the reorganization that this person was speaking into is really about, is how can we, I was distracted by someone outside. How can we have these conversations to invite the feminine to have a reclamation of sovereignty by integrating the relationship with the masculine, and feeling safe to be able to have these conversations and trust men and the masculine, to be able to not just hold them, but to contribute to them in an effective way. And that's really what I'm going with mind yoga sessions that I'm doing with people, is getting to the heart of the issues with regards to relating and relationship and intimacy from predominantly the feminine perspective and experience, because in doing that there is then an invitation to the masculine to reorganize within themselves. And I feel that it comes from the feminine predominantly, and I love the ability to have these conversations and kind of bridge the gap. I believe it comes from the feminine because as a man, I don't know your experience in a feminine body. I don't know what it is to get on an elevator and feel unsafe with another man in there because they've smiled and they've given a look. It's not my experience, and we don't know what we don't know. And so by having these conversations and getting to highlight them, but then also rewrite the unconscious programming so that you as a woman, you don't have to feel unsafe. You know that you can be affirmed in your boundaries and express yourself and feel safe in an integrated way to be able to deal with a situation like that, where if that person is making you feel uncomfortable, maybe you express it, but maybe you just deal with it in a way that isn't requiring of them to be a part of the conversation. So yeah, that was the one word takeaway: reorganization. And I'm curious if this resonates with you and you're either wanting to have a conversation about your experience around safety and trust with the masculine, or you're wanting to have a mind yoga session where you're wanting to improve your relationship to the masculine by resolving your issues, then please just reach out and get in touch. This is a longer term project and it feels appropriate. So I trust that this is speaking to you if you're still listening, and that you'll receive the call to be a part of the conversation. Because if this does speak to you and it does resonate, then there is an ability to respond in a way that serves the narrative and serves the conversation and moves the story along, because you have the power to do so. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I'm excited for the conversation to grow.